Souths entered this afternoon's match at Broadmeadow with a 5-point buffer on the ladder and with a chance of tightening its grip on the minor premiership, and it couldn't have been a better start. The opening goal came after only 3 minutes. A spectacular uni save, the only thing holding out another goal soon after. It was a comprehensive performance from the title favourites. They extend their lead in the premiership. Meantime, a tough opening half in the women's A Division clash between Novo's 2 and Oxford's 1, with both sides scoreless in the first 30 minutes. The second term started in much the same vein, although as the match wore on, Oxford's looked set to stamp its authority. A series of short corners late in the match presented the Red and Whites with several opportunities, but Novo's amazingly held on to escape with a 0-0 draw.
Troy Tapfield was sentenced in April to 1 year in jail, a sentence which was more than doubled on appeal last week. The 26-year-old killed a cyclist when his car veered off the F3 freeway near Toronto, south of Newcastle. Traces of morphine were found in Mr Tapfield's blood. New South Wales Premier Bob Carr today announced his government's intention to review the legislation, in which drug drivers are not subject to the same penalties as drink drivers.
People who kill or injure someone while driving under the influence of an illicit drug receive the same treatment as people who commit that offence driving under the influence of alcohol.
Drug drivers who cause injury or death will now face a 14-year maximum penalty.
There's a tidying up of the law that sends a powerful message that when affected by any intoxicating substance, you should not get behind the wheel of a car.
The opposition has welcomed the decision. The legislation will be amended when Parliament resumes next month. Antonia Kidman, NBN News.
The Knights team reads like a hospital waiting list. Grogan, Matthew Johns, Glanville, Muir and Harrigan all in doubt for Sunday's showdown. The Chief is battling a recurring back problem and won't train until Friday.
But hopefully by then plenty of pool work and physio, it'll pull up fine. I'm really keen to play this weekend.
The Knights will need all its crew on deck, the team needing to win its last 3 games to have any chance of finishing in the top 3.
Oh, they're going to be fired up. It's going to be a very competitive game. I think Balmain will be the same. Obviously, they're poised to get into a final position, and so both games are going to be crucial, and both teams have everything to play for.
It's do or die for the Hunter Mariners this weekend after going down to the Perth Reds. The team has a near impossible task of downing the Broncos at home to keep its faint finals hopes alive. Meanwhile, coach Graham Murray is playing down claims by Noel Goldthorpe that he hasn't talked to the halfback since dropping him to reserve grade.
I've spoken to Noel why he's not in the team, but then if he wants more information, I guess it's my understanding is it's always been the player then approaches the coach.
For farmers in the Narrabri district in the state's central west, the early promise offered by good rains at the start of the season has all but evaporated. It was supposed to be the wheat crop that would finally put the devastating drought of the early 90s behind them.
Last year we had an exceptional year here, and after coming out of drought in 94 and 95 and feeding sheep through those years, we thought it had come to an end, yes.
The lack of rain has meant wheat, which shouldn't start to head until late September, has already come on, deformed and stunted. For Wayne Hutchinson, it's meant trying to make his crop worth something, anything.
So we've got sheep on the wheat now, and on half of the wheat, and in the next 10 days or so, if we don't get good rain, the rest of our wheat will have the balance of the sheep on.
However, plummeting stock prices are likely to mean his sheep won't pay their way either. It has Wayne and his family now considering whether life on the land is all worth it.
I have been here all my life, and it'll be a very hard decision to leave, but I'm not going to put my young son and my young daughter through this when they get older.
The federal government is due to announce its drought strategy shortly. However, it may come too late for the Hutchinsons and many families like them. Phil Hind, NBN News.
Mark Killen is going against the grain, turning his back on a heritage of cereal cropping to invest in an ancient and increasingly fashionable herb.
A lot of people are looking for something different to do. Bulk commodities don't attract premium prices.
Mark is the only farmer in Australia who produces dried coriander leaf. He's dedicated 8 hectares of prime lucerne country to the crop. Growing the herb is relatively simple, and it's harvested every few weeks over a 6-month season. For Mark, it was a gamble, but one that has paid off.
This small area of coriander doesn't compare with growing 500 acres of wheat, but for the return on your dollar, it might be a better investment.
Statistics show a 60% drop in the amount of wheat planted in the Hunter during the last 10 years. Forecasters say it's a trend which is likely to continue. The trend was enough to convince John Penninger to sink $1.5 million into a herb farm on the outskirts of Merriwar. The farm processes 5 different varieties and distributes nationally. Other farmers in the district are now following his lead.
We've had a range of inquiries, and the people that mostly have come through have been established families with younger sons coming through their enterprise.
The farm aims to eventually broaden its range, researching other varieties which may have national and international market potential. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
Best and Less have operated from the Winds building in Hunter Street since November 1992. They say their choice not to renew their lease was purely a commercial one. Today, some sections of the business community expressed their disappointment at the decision.
Well, it's disappointing. It means jobs and it means a business now that's disappearing out of the CBD of Newcastle, and that concerns us all greatly.
According to Best and Less, turnover in Hunter Street has gradually declined, so it's no longer viable for the store to operate. But the Chamber of Commerce remain positive.
There is a changing use of retail and commercial areas in a place like Newcastle, in the central business district. There are obviously a lot of very viable businesses there.
Best and Less refused to reveal exactly how many staff would be affected. However, they did say all staff would be offered alternative employment in other stores in the region. Antonia Kidman, NBN News.
The Newcastle Knights were working on moves today to ensure they don't become their own worst enemies by giving away points to the Chargers. That's how coach Malcolm Riley saw his team's defeat at the hands of the Gold Coast back in May. But the stakes are higher now with only 3 more matches deciding the year.
Oh, they're going to be fired up. It's going to be a very competitive game. I think Balmain will be the same. Obviously, they're poised to get into a final position, and so both games are going to be crucial, and both teams have everything to play for.
It's a big task down at Newcastle Marathon Stadium. They'll be out trying to avenge their last round loss to us. That was probably the biggest upset of the season to date. We beat them quite convincingly that night.
The Knights line-up stands despite injury worries over Matthew Johns, Adam Muir, Harrigan, Glanville and Brett Grogan, who limped into training with leg and shoulder pain.
I've missed out on much, so there's no way I'm going to miss out on the home game.
It's obviously opposition's done their homework on our half-back combination, in particular Wes Patton, and they worked on ways to shut him down and out of the play. So Tommy O'Reilly's come in at half-back this week, and Keith Blackett's come to 5'8".
The game kicks off at 3 p.m. on Sunday at Marathon Stadium. There's no room for complacency against a struggling North, which is still capable of pulling off an upset win. The Wildfires remain equal 8th on the ladder, but a place in the top 5 is a possibility. They'll field an unchanged side against North, with Stuart Jones on the injured list and Danny Mayava to again captain the side. The club is expecting a formidable North turnout in reserve grade and Colts, but nonetheless hopes for a clean sweep. Meanwhile, the Newcastle Rugby League moves into the qualifying semi-final round of the Tooheys Cup Series at Harker Oval tonight. Curry Workers fielding teams in all grades, with the main game kicking off at 8:30 against Wests. Saturday sees the semi-final elimination rounds between South Newcastle and Maitland in the first grade and under-20s, while Lakes and Central meet up in the reserve grade. And in the NBN Soccer League, the final 5 placings are in the balance, with the match of the round between Hamilton and Edgeworth on Sunday.
A golden presentation kicked off proceedings last night. The Falcons' young guns rewarded for their efforts with the baby boomers before showing their appreciation on the court. Simon Dwight's medal didn't hold him down for Canberra, but the Australian forward's early form also earned close attention from David Simmons. Down, but as yet not out, Butch Hayes joined Ben Melmoth to add to the Cannons' woes. Everyone contributing as Newcastle raced away to an 8-point quarter-time lead. The Falcons were clearly the better side, and while the early alley-oops went astray, nothing could fault the locals' second attempt or Canberra's immediate reply. Newcastle increased its lead to 13 at the main break before returning an even better performance in the third term. The Cannons completely outgunned as the Falcons looked home and hosed. But it almost slipped away. Canberra clawed its way back at one stage, reducing the deficit to just 2 points. Ben Pepper then stepping up to save the day for Newcastle. The Falcons up by 12. Yet another Group 1 win for the man who's soon to retire. 9-4 with bookies, and Spartacus returned $3.40 and $1.50 on the New South Wales TAB. Poetic King $2.80 and $5.90 for Cut Up Rough. The trifecta $4.81.80. Well, Connections made the right decision by starting Spartacus in Melbourne. It was also nominated in Rosehill's Premier Stakes. This morning's scratching reduced the field to 8, with Dashing Eagle starting favourite. $8.60 and $2.60 for King Ivor Unison $1.60 and Flakjack at $7.20, the Quinella $16.80 and the Trifecta $8.53.10. A blackout at Townsend Oval delayed kick-off in the elimination semi-final, but light brought with it a powerful Maitland defence. However, the Pumpkin Pickers' enthusiasm cost them the opening 2 points of the match. Maitland levelled with a kick of its own before the Lions took the running approach, Adrian McNabb darting out of dummy half for the first 4-pointer. Another penalty for the visitors brought it back to a 4-point ball game, but Souths replied soon after, running the ball on the last tackle for the perfect result. 12-4, and with only seconds left in the first 40 minutes, Souths ran in its third try for a comfortable half-time lead. Maitland had to score first in the second term. They did, the Pumpkin Pickers crossing through Matt Lockwood. But the visitors' headaches were to continue. Brendan Lantry came off second best from this. Their chances of bouncing back then dropping away with poor handling. And when Darren Forward showed how it should be done at the other end of the park, the result was sealed. 22-8, Souths on top, but the Lions face sudden death football again next weekend in the clash with Curry. In soccer, Broadmeadow has claimed its first NBN League premiership by beating Toronto this afternoon at Lyle Peacock Oval. With other sides breathing down their necks, the Magic needed to win to guarantee the crown. Chris Akevsky gave them the edge after 20 minutes. Another goal before the break put Broadmeadow right in control, Andrew Tonks dealing with the scraps from point blank. The Stags never came back, the Magic winning 3-0 for their first title since entering the competition in 1965. Meantime, in other final round results, wins for Highfields, Western, Hamilton and Wallsend, and on the ladder, Broadmeadow finished the premiership only 1 point in advance of Highfields. Western's win today pushes them into the top 5, while Belmont Swansea comprehensively won the wooden spoon.
Brad Scott was just 16 years old when he went to work as an apprentice electrician at the engineering firm Berryman's at Tomago near Newcastle. He thought it was a chance of a lifetime, but it turned into a nightmare when he was assaulted by 3 co-workers on June 20 last year. He was so distressed he took the case to the Equal Opportunity Tribunal, suing for $40,000 after being discriminated against because of his age. Today in Newcastle, the matter was settled out of court, the company agreeing to pay damages and issue an apology.
I just hope this sort of thing stops in the workplace. That's why I did it all.
The exact conditions of the deal are confidential, and the out-of-court settlement also prevents the release of details about the assaults. The 3 employees of the company have already faced criminal proceedings and are each serving 40 hours community service.
Unfortunately, I understand that in certain work environments it's quite common, and it is very important that it be stopped by employers and not condoned by employers.
The company's statement to the court apologised for the incident and the distress it's caused Brad and his father Ray, who also works at Berryman's.
It's very traumatic for young people to be subjected to any form of violence or harassment of whatever sort. It's very destructive on their when they first go into the workplace. If that's the first experience they have, then that's a very negative experience for them, and it takes them some time to get over that.
Brad has been counselled about the assaults and has since gained employment with another engineering company. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
The massage parlour on Hillsborough Road has been quietly going about its business for years. But the site is zoned rural and now its owners are seeking a change so they can operate legally, a request that has the support of council's planners.
The recommendation there is to allow brothel for a period of 2 years while the council assesses all of the land uses in that location.
But Councillor Laurie Brewster has attacked such a move, claiming it contradicts council's draft brothel policy.
We do have a specific policy to have it in industrial areas, and I think that's the best place for these sorts of operations.
Meanwhile, plans for a supermarket and specialty stores on a 2.4 hectare site nearby are being stymied. Mr Farrell says they won't support an application to rezone the land from private open space to retail because it goes against the recommendations of a commercial centre study of the area.
Being outside the existing commercial centre of Warners Bay, it's felt that any new retail development based on a standalone design would undermine the viability of the existing centre.
The results of tonight's meeting will be discussed by the full council next week. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
It's called the Sydney 2000 Training Alliance and has the aim of promoting areas outside Sydney as training venues for the Olympic squads from foreign countries. A new pre-games training brochure was launched, encouraging overseas teams to get the hometown advantage in the build-up to the Games. The Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Regional Development, Sandra Norrie, was speaking to 30 Consuls-General from overseas at an exhibition by 17 organisations from across New South Wales. The exhibition highlighted the excellent sporting facilities available, such as the Equestrian Training Centre at Lochinvar. The Hunter is also planning for an athletics complex at Glendale, on land which formerly accommodated the railway's workshops. Ms Norrie said the first step in the Training Alliance program will see consultants in international business arriving in November.
Management wants an increase in production at the open-cut mine near Muswellbrook, as well as at the preparation plant and coal loader. The company claims the mine is the least productive in the Hunter Valley. At the moment, Hunter Valley No. 1 produces just under 6 million tonnes with 400 employees. The review could see this workforce cut by half. Peace talks are continuing between management and union following a lengthy strike at the mine over work contracts. The company's latest action has been described as blatant intimidation by the mining union.
The most comprehensive review of the New South Wales education system in 30 years was announced today.
In short, it will be a stronger, simpler HSC.
Securing their future is the culmination of 2 years' work and meets the Carr government's election promise to thoroughly review the HSC, the most significant change being the scrapping of the tertiary entrance rank.
The TER has become a substitute for high school certificate results. It reduces 13 years of schooling to a single number.
The TER will be replaced with the university's admission index, which will only be available to those students who apply for a tertiary education. Other changes include a revitalisation of the Year 10 school certificate, a greater emphasis on vocational courses, and a fairer and more comprehensive system of student assessment.
Employers and training and education providers will get a detailed report card on what a student knows and what a student can do.
The government has committed $24 million over 3 years to the reforms. The opposition claims that by failing to address the bigger issues facing higher education, the government has only created further uncertainty. But the response from the Teachers' Federation has been positive. They say if the implementation of these reforms is appropriate, then this just might be the milestone the Carr government promised. Antonia Kidman, NBN News.
Robbie McCormack started with the Knights a decade ago as a centre. He switched to the scrum, opening up a representative career. The Moth played for country in New South Wales, but most of his highlights came in the blue and red of the Knights.
I think one of the other big ones was semi-final series down in Sydney, when we had there was about 15 or 20,000 Novocastrians down there following us, and to run out in the SFS and have these red and blue flags everywhere was a great feeling.
After 154 games for the Knights, McCormack jumped ship to Super League, becoming the Mariners' first club captain.
It's been good. It's been a nice change. I think I need a bit of a change, and it's been helpful for me in my game, and I've just had good fun, just enjoyed it more. So yeah, it's been a bonus.
The Mariners have prepared a special send-off for one of Newcastle's favourite sons, including thousands of Robbie McCormack masks to be worn by the crowd.
It's a big part of my life over. I suppose you never really want it then, but the day comes around and you got to make a decision, and I think it's been coming, and I think it's the best decision to make.
Robbie hopes to finish his career with a club in England before returning to Newcastle. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
The Hunter is home to a number of highly regarded martial arts schools, turning out a range of national champions. Recently, some of these schools, like the Hunter Valley Martial Arts Centre, say they're being approached by students who've been burned elsewhere.
We have a lot of, we call them refugees from some of the other systems, and they come in and they have a look around and they say, good Lord, what I've been doing is nothing like this, and that's happening to quite a few of the other traditional groups in the city.
Brian Hayes says he hears stories of students being pressured into contracts without being allowed to witness reputable classes such as this one in action or inspect facilities. He says many are also being given unrealistic expectations.
You can't offer somebody a black belt in 18 months. You can't promise somebody a yellow belt grading in 3 weeks or 2 months. You can't promise a person who joins a football club, you can't promise that they'll be playing first grade within 18 months.
The Department of Fair Trading says it's received only a small number of formal complaints. Even so, the established schools want the government to step in and tighten regulations.
We're dying for that. I mean, it's the way to make sure that we have professional credibility. Some of us have been teaching here for a very long time.
Phil Hind, NBN News.
For nearly 6 years, Dr. Hugh Dunstan and dozens of researchers and students have been trying to work out what causes a chronic illness, where symptoms last for at least 6 months. Their investigations have focused on the possible role of germs in causing chronic fatigue and pain. What they found is that many germs can work together to cause a disease. It's not always one germ that's to blame. The discovery has helped them to find a link between certain germs and chronic pain and fatigue disorders.
It has great implications for diagnostic services to help the treatment management of these patients for clinicians, and we are believing it's very helpful for the medical practitioners too.
These findings are now supported by researchers in Sweden who are using a vaccine to treat such conditions. It relieves some of the symptoms, but at this stage they don't really understand how. Now the Swedish team is keen to collaborate with Newcastle University to find and produce a vaccine that will treat and cure chronic disease.
This is a sort of validation, if you like, of our work, that we've been going in the right direction. They've come to this totally independently of our work, and we didn't know of each other until they actually did a patent search and found that we'd got in there first.
With no government funding for the project, Dr Dunstan says the financial and academic support from overseas is a bonus. A team from Sweden will visit the university in September to compare notes and forge a partnership. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
It was an open day with a difference, when academics lifted the lid on their lighter sides to bring the university to life.
We wanted to open it out to people who would otherwise not normally have occasion to visit this campus if they're not students or parents of students. So we wanted to provide fun for all ages and contribute something back to the bicentennial.
More than 15,000 people wandered through the campus, soaking up the sights and sounds of all the university has to offer. In the Medicine and Health Sciences display, the brave took part in an experiment that showed their palates were often inherited. While for some it was a bitter experience, others simply had no taste. There was a multicultural diversion from all things academic, with international students setting up a window to the world. Meanwhile, some scientific experiments captured the imagination of children, mesmerised by what appeared to be magic. It was sink or swim for this duck when sand seemed to dissolve into liquid.
There's been a lot of that sort of reaction, which is always a good sign, I think, that people are having a mind-expanding experience, I suppose.
Simone Cobb, NBN News.